Scene script. Have you ever wondered what happens to our world when the polar ice melts? We're exploring an issue that's as chilling as the ice itself, the impact of global warming on the polar ice caps. Now you might be asking, why should I care about some ice thousands of miles away? Well, the truth is this isn't just about the polar bears or the Arctic foxes or the seals whose homes are literally melting beneath them. It's about us too. Our planet's polar ice caps act like massive mirrors, reflecting the sun's heat back into space and keeping our planet cool. But as global warming heats up our world, these icy mirrors are shrinking. They're melting at a rate faster than any of us could have imagined. And this isn't just bad news for the polar bears. When the polar ice melts, it doesn't just disappear. It flows into our oceans, causing sea levels to rise. This isn't a theoretical issue that might happen one day in the future. It's happening right now. Coastal cities are already feeling the effects with increased flooding and more powerful storms. And this is just the beginning. As the ice continues to melt, we can expect to see even more drastic changes. Weather patterns will become more unpredictable, with some areas experiencing more extreme droughts, while others face heavier rainfall. Our wildlife is also at risk. Many species depend on the polar ice for their survival. As their habitats disappear, so too could they. The loss of these species would be a tragedy, and it would also upset the delicate balance of our ecosystem. So what does this all mean? It means that the melting of polar ice isn't just an environmental concern. It's a global crisis that affects us all. The reality is, the melting of polar ice is no longer a distant concern, but a pressing issue. We need to face this icy mystery head-on for the sake of our planet, our wildlife, and our future. So, what's causing the ice to melt at such an alarming rate? Let's dive into the heart of the matter: global warming. It's a term we've all heard, but what does it really mean? Simply put, global warming is the long-term increase in Earth's average temperature. But it's not just about a few degrees here and there. It's about a trend of rising heat, a trend that's been accelerating over the past century. Since the start of the 20th century, Earth's average temperature has risen by about 1.2 degrees Fahrenheit. That might not seem like much, but consider this. Even a single degree increase can have dramatic effects on our planet's ecosystems. It's like running a fever that never breaks, and our planet is feeling the heat. Now let's talk about the greenhouse effect. Our atmosphere works something like a greenhouse, trapping some of the sun's heat to keep our planet warm enough to support life. But just as too much heat in a greenhouse can wilt the plants, too much heat trapped by our atmosphere is causing our planet to overheat. And here's the kicker. We humans are turning up the thermostat. By burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, we're releasing huge amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This carbon dioxide acts like a blanket, trapping more heat and contributing to global warming. But it doesn't stop there. We're also cutting down forests, our planet's natural air filters, at an alarming rate. This not only removes a critical tool for absorbing carbon dioxide, but it also releases more of this greenhouse gas when the trees are burned or decompose. We've set in motion a vicious cycle. The more carbon dioxide we release, the warmer our planet gets. And the warmer our planet gets, the more ice melts at the poles. Global warming isn't just heating up our summers, it's melting our polar ice. Let's dive deeper into the icy facts and figures. The polar ice caps, those majestic sentinels of the North and South Poles, are melting, and they're melting fast. Their disappearing act is not just a magic trick, it's a stark reality. In fact, according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the Arctic has been losing ice at a staggering rate of about 13% per decade since the late 1970s. That's equivalent to losing an area of ice almost the size of South Dakota every single year. Now let's journey to the bottom of the globe. The Antarctic isn't faring much better. The rate of ice loss has nearly tripled in the last 2 decades, resulting in a net loss of about 149 billion metric tons of ice per year. To put it into perspective, that's like losing nearly 400 Empire State Buildings worth of ice every single day. But it's not just about the ice that's already gone. It's also about the rate at which it's disappearing. The pace of ice melt is accelerating. In the 1990s, the Antarctic was losing ice at a rate of about 49 billion metric tons per year. By the time we hit the mid-20s, that number had skyrocketed to over 220 billion metric tons per year. And the Arctic? It's the same chilling story. The rate of ice loss has doubled in the last 40 years. And with each passing year, the situation only seems to be getting worse. These numbers are more than just statistics. They're a siren call, a warning of the drastic changes happening right in front of our eyes. They're a stark reminder of the fragility of our planet and the urgency of the situation we're facing. The numbers don't lie, our polar ice is in peril. What happens when the ice melts? It's more than just rising sea levels. You see, the melting of polar ice doesn't just affect the polar regions, it sends shock waves throughout the globe, creating a ripple effect that touches all corners of the planet. Let's start with the weather. You might think the weather in your hometown is far removed from the icy poles, but it's all connected. When polar ice melts, it disrupts the balance of the planet's climate system. The fresh water from the melting ice dilutes the ocean's salt concentration, altering the flow of ocean currents that regulate our weather. This can lead to more volatile and extreme weather patterns, from intense heat waves to severe winter storms. Next, consider the polar animals. Polar bears, seals, penguins, and a myriad of other species call the icy landscapes home. As the ice disappears, so does their habitat. These creatures are specially adapted to life on the ice, and without it, their survival is in jeopardy. The loss of these species would be a tragic blow to biodiversity, and it could destabilize ecosystems far beyond the poles. But the ripple effect doesn't stop there. It reaches us humans too. Many communities around the world, particularly those along the coast, rely on stable sea levels for their livelihoods. As polar ice melts and sea levels rise, coastal cities and towns face the threat of flooding, while islands risk being swallowed up entirely. These communities could lose their homes, their jobs, and their way of life. And let's not forget about the economic impact. The damage caused by extreme weather, the loss of habitats and species, the displacement of human communities, it all comes with a hefty price tag. Economies around the world could face significant strain, potentially leading to social and political upheaval. So as you can see, the melting of polar ice is not just a polar problem, it's a global crisis that affects us all, from the weather we experience to the animals we share the planet with, to the stability of our communities and economies. The ripple effects of melting ice extend far beyond the poles. The question now is, what can we do about it? We've seen the statistics, understood the implications, and acknowledged the problem. But acknowledging isn't enough. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get to work, because every effort counts, every action matters. Let's start with something simple yet impactful: reducing our carbon footprint. It might sound like a daunting task, but it's easier than you think. Take public transportation or carpool when you can. Opt for a bike ride, or better yet, a walk on a beautiful day. Consider cutting down on meat consumption, as the livestock industry contributes significantly to greenhouse gases. Try to buy local produce to save on transport emissions. And remember, every single effort, no matter how small, contributes to a larger goal. Next, let's talk about renewable energy. It's not just a buzzword, it's the future. Solar, wind, hydro. These are sources of energy that do not deplete our planet. By supporting renewable energy, we're voting with our dollars for a sustainable future. If possible, consider installing solar panels in your home or switching to a green energy provider. But it's not just about individual actions. We need to push for change on a larger scale. Advocate for climate policies. Encourage your local and national leaders to prioritize the environment. Use your voice to vote for those who understand the urgency of our situation and are committed to taking action. There's a saying that goes, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." It's a reminder that the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. So let's make the right choices. Let's choose to care. Let's choose to act. Together, we can combat global warming and help keep our polar ice from disappearing. It's time to take action, because our world depends on it.